More than 60% of Europeans live in rural areas covering 90% of the land. Each community faces its own problems, and the people in those communities are the ones to tackle them. That is the thinking behind LEADER, the initiative designed to promote economic development in these areas through a grassroots approach. LEADER started in 1991. Since then, its various incarnations, LEADER 1, LEADER 2 and LEADER Plus, have enabled rural communities to pursue their own development strategies, looking to the future without losing touch with their natural and cultural heritage. The local approach to rural development works through local action groups, representing different interests within rural communities. They formulate ideas, make decisions, and put them into practice. LEADER has also encouraged people with an interest in rural development to form regional, national, and international networks so they can benefit from each other's experience. The LEADER is the most thrilling initiative ever for newcomers to EU, as much as continuing challenge for EU member states and their rural communities. They already have adequate policy and effective support system in place, which the Southeast European countries intend to learn from when they start developing their own. The intention is to start overcoming problems rural communities faces as soon as possible, with their full participation in order to produce faster impact on rural development. Brussels. We talk to Brussels. We negotiate with Brussels. Brussels prescribed it. Brussels foreseen. Brussels don't like, cancel or deny. But Brussels more than all inspires. It is a top place every official would like to stay. Members of the Regional Rural Development Standing Working Group in Southeastern Europe are on a mission. They have to meet European Commission structures supporting the transition of their agricultures and rural areas. And they are just about to start learning about local action groups, about their setup and functioning, animation processes, which is one of the most interesting subjects, as much for new member states as for candidate and potential candidate countries. The topic is touching deeply not just central, but particularly local levels, due to the success of the model, which is especially designed to efficiently support local initiatives. I wish you welcome to DG Agri and a successful day. You will learn about our activities and also share our experiences. We are already working closely with SWG, which is our privileged partner in the Western Balkans. Our common objective is to prepare the region for accession into EU. This process demands a strong regional cooperation, which is an essential factor of both political stability and economic prosperity. DG Agri would like to be your partner and to facilitate your contacts with European Commission. All units in DG Agri are connected with the enlargement process, but 2 units dealing only with G4 and B2. G4 unit is a diplomacy unit, and we are supposed to develop policies and then implement those policies in order to facilitate your later life within EU. That's why it is called IPARD. IPARD is not everything because it is a part of IPA. We are the fifth component of it and are taking care of the candidate countries. Local development strategies and leader approach are the most challenging things in rural development policy. On the other hand, once being implemented, it is the most rewarding approach you can have in policy, because you can create policy, you can plan policy, and then later on you can see the outcome of it. The welcoming words and introduction were followed by lecturers. The main concept behind the leader approach is that development strategies are more effective and efficient if decided and implemented at local level by local actors, accompanied by clear and transparent procedures, support of the relevant public administrations, and necessary technical assistance for the transfer of good practice. The difference between leader and other more traditional rural policy measures is that it indicates how to proceed rather than what needs to be done. 7 key features summarize the leader approach. Through local action groups, a public-private partnership is established. It must be representative of the area and partners must be locally based. The groups draw up an integrated local development strategy for their territory and responsible for implementing it. There are no transborder lags, but it is possible to realize some transborder cooperation projects. Presenters explained the structure of local action groups, implementation steps for leader, and selection of projects. EU started from a very low level of exemplary implementation of leader approaches to reach very sophisticated leader actions. IPARD supports candidate countries to develop practical experience with Leader 2, which is integrated under its Axis 2. For candidate countries and potential candidate countries, there are following implementation steps for Leader: mobilization, creation of partnership, preparation of local development strategies, selection of eligible areas, and implementation of rural development strategies. To be able to access activities under the European Network for Rural Development, the national rural development networks have to be created first. All activities related to RD networks in candidate countries can be co-financed by IPARD under the technical assistance measure. The European Network for Rural Development has been established for networking national networks, organizations, and administrations active in the field of rural development. As a part of the EU Rural Development Policy for 2007-2013, each member state shall establish a national rural network, which groups the organizations and administrations involved in rural development. An action plan of national rural network shall contain at least the identification and analysis of good transferable practices and provision of information on them, network management, organization of experience and know-how exchange, preparation of training programs for LAGs in the process of formation and technical assistance for interterritorial and transnational cooperation. The contact point of the ENRD is the operational instrument of the network. The contact point services are the team of the European Network for Rural Development is located in Brussels. Here is the overall structure of the European Network for Rural Development. Finally, it was concluded that European Network for Rural Development and SWG share an interest in establishing cooperation and in the exchange of information. There are two instruments for cooperation between the Western Balkans and EU countries: cooperation under IPA and cooperation under the European Rural Development Fund. Under IPA, there are 12 different programs depending upon the particular countries. 10 of them are operational now. The Adriatic program includes several countries and all other are bilateral programs. The overall budget is 330 million euros and is very small compared with the structural funds and cohesion policy. Here is how it works. Under ERDF instrument, there are two zones: Southeast Europe and Mediterranean. This is a totally different program compared to IPA. Southeast Europe, managing authority is Hungary. 6 IPA countries participate with their own annual envelopes. Priorities are innovation, environment, mobility, accessibility, and transnational synergies for growth centers. Mediterranean, managing authority is France. IPA countries participate with their own annual envelopes. Priorities are innovation, environment, mobility and accessibility, and polycentric development. Here is how it works. Like all ERDF programs, projects have to involve minimum 2 partners from 2 countries. Decision-making on selection of project is done by one entity. IPA partners are contracted separately. The eligibility of the applicants is defined by the partner beneficiary countries themselves. Generally speaking, the public sector and NGOs are eligible. Participation of the private sector is limited. IPA replaced FAR, ISPA, SAPARD, CARD and Turkey pre-accession instruments as a single framework for the assistance to all candidate and potential candidate countries. Overall objective of IPA is: the community shall assist the countries in their progressive alignment with the standards and policies of the European Union, including, where appropriate, the acquis communautaire with a view to membership. IPA consists of 5 components: and presently follows the Multi-Annual Indicative Planning Document MIPD 2009-2011. Component 1 national programs have the following forms of assistance. Component 2 cross-border cooperation has the following objectives. CBC programming is essentially implemented through calls for proposals. All priorities require minimum 50% co-financing from the national counterparts. Eligible applicants are Submission deadlines for open call for proposals are September and October 2009. The financial assistance under IPA is accession-driven and actions stem for priorities identified in European and accession partnerships for each country. In the enlargement strategy paper and progress reports that form the enlargement package published each autumn. The enlargement package is accompanied by IPA Multi-Annual Indicative Financial Framework, MIFF. The one is designed to provide information of the Commission's intention in terms of indicative financial allocations by country and by component. These financial metrics forms a link between political framework and budgetary process. It is revised annually on a rolling 3-year basis. Based on the allocation in the MIFF, and on the priorities identified within the political framework, multi-annual indicative planning documents for each country, plus one for all multi-beneficiary programs, are prepared. Through them, the specific objectives and choices for pre-occasion aid are presented by the Commission. These also cover a 3-year period. The latest published MIPDs covered the years 2008-2010 by country in million euros. Assistance under IPA can take the following forms. After the lectures, participants visited the DG Agri Info Center. They explored its rich fund of printed materials and got brochures, booklets and leaflets. The following day, the participants were already in Germany. InWEnt, as one of the German development cooperation organizations, has been a long-term partner with SWG, among others, in the issue of agriculture and rural development in Southeast European countries and closely cooperates commonly with GTZ. InWEnt's organizational structure and InWEnt's regional coordination division were presented to SWG delegates by Ms. Regine Reim, a regional coordinator. InWEnt's cooperation with Southeast Europe is financed by BMZ, other federal ministries, e.g. Federal Foreign Office, and multilateral donors, e.g. European Union. Main focus of the strategy of the InWEnt's cooperation with Southeast Europe is harmonization with EU structures. The focal areas are decentralization, public administration reform, economic reform, private sector development, and regional rural development. The main programs of the InWEnt's cooperation with Southeast Europe, financed by BMZ and other donors, were presented.
InWEnt has been cooperating with Southeastern Europe countries for a very long time. InWEnt, that is Capacity Building International Germany. We have been engaged for many years in Southeastern Europe, and we are supporting all programs, for example, focusing on the economic reforms, administrative reforms in Southeastern Europe, and of course we are supporting the process of integration into the European Union, for example through the LEADER program, which is very important to us and to the cooperation with our partners, such as the Standing Working Group.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Please follow me into the historical wine cellar.
The participants enjoyed a very interesting guided tour around the basement of the wine vault through the Winery Museum and its wine shop. The guide was Mrs. Vera Sicken, a wine tasting expert. She organized also a short course on wine tasting for the participants. Mr. Hubert Kunz, a member of the cooperative, presented it in details. The cooperative was founded in 1868 by 18 members. Today there are 320 members, and the cooperative produces annually 1 million liters of different kinds of wine. The entire quantity of wine is bottled for selling. The vicinity of the huge urban area of 20 million consumers in 3 countries is a big advantage for the cooperative. The whole profit is distributed to the members depending on the quality and quantity of the grape. The annual turnover is 10 million euros, and 6 million of it is given back to the members for their delivered grapes. Most of the members have very small vineyards cultivated over weekends, and while producing wine and brandy, they use the cooperative's equipment. The vineyards are on the very extreme slopes, which are preventing producers from using machinery. Therefore, production costs are very high. For the reason, financial support from Brussels and from German federal state is very important. Nowadays, they also consider the Axis 3 to be possible source of support. The last very big project was a land consolidation project with a budget of 7 million euros, out of which 10% was own contribution. The surface of 50 hectares was consolidated. It was a successful example of special public-private partnership.
War bis vor einer Woche Bürgermeister hier dieser Gemeinde und bin seit einer Woche AD, außer Dienst. Bin Mitglied hier in dieser Genossenschaft, habe als Winzer und als Mitglied die Flurbereinigung Maischers geleitet und bin auf der Ebene halte ich Kontakte zum Land Rheinland-Pfalz, damit die entsprechenden Mittel und Zuschüsse hier nach Maischers kommen. Im folgenden Jahrhundert war große Not hier und die Winzer wurden einig, haben sich zusammen, haben nicht mehr gegeneinander gearbeitet, sondern miteinander. Jeder hat seine Stärken eingebracht und das war der Erfolg dieser Genossenschaft. Darum sind wir heute eine der größten, der wichtigsten Genossenschaften in Deutschland. Wichtig ist natürlich in der heutigen Zeit, dass wir uns immer wieder richtig aufstellen, dass wir unseren Wein gut vermarkten können. Dazu brauchen wir Hilfen. Aber wenn jeder das Beste gibt, bin ich 100% von überzeugt, werden wir uns durchsetzen. Unsere Alleinstellungsmerkmale, die schöne Landschaft, wenn jeder das Beste gibt, bin ich von überzeugt, dann wird alles funktionieren. Wir leben ja hier im Rheinland. Wir Rheinländer sagen, es hätt noch immer Jod gegangen. Ich glaube, ich hoffe zumindest, er kann es übersetzen.
Da haben wir erst schon Zeitdruck gemacht und kommen selber.
The study tour participants had an opportunity to visit the German Network for Rural Development and understand how the EU rural development policy is set up, structured, and implemented at the national level in one member state. This was presented by Mr. Stefan Kamper from the Federal Agency of Agriculture and Food, National Rural Network Unit, in a lecture on the activities of the German network. The Network for Rural Development is a space for exchange and provision of information. It improves administrative processes, supports the actors, encourages cooperation, support collecting, analyzing and diffusing the information on rural development measures, good practice and development in rural areas. Germany has 16 federal states. On the national level, there is a national strategy plan on rural development. There are 14 rural development programs on the level of federal states and one on federal level regarding rural development network. The national network unit had for 8 years 6.8 million euros of EU and national money. The base of German network for rural development is the EAFRD, National Strategy and Program for the network. The network tasks are improving transparency of policy and developing rural areas in the sense of the objectives and according to future needs. The target groups are LAGs and local actors, associations, administrations and services for national rural network. Challenges for leader in Germany are the offer of the network has to match these specifications. The study group reached Luxembourg on the same day. The visit to Lag of Redange-Wilds and Socio-Cultural Center Prabelli was an opportunity to hear about an actual Lag, their organization and real-life experiences within Leader 2007-2013 in Redange-Wilds, Luxembourg, from Mr. Jacques Fons, Program Manager. Lag Leader, Redange-Wilds, includes 14 municipalities of around 400 square kilometers and 22,500 inhabitants. Also, 16 different organizations and associations dealing with rural development are members of this Lag. Functioning of the Lag is regulated by a contract between all members of the Lag. The Lag's responsibilities are this Lag has also a coordination role in regional cooperation in the North in general. For project ideas which are not eligible within Leader, this Lag tries to find other financing sources. Regional Leader partners are the Nature Park Oversure, which was constituted through Leader 1, and the Nature Park of the Anliers Forests and Upper Sur, which is a common park with Belgium. Let us see a bit history for this Lag. Leader strategy for 2007-2013 is based on 3 pillars: participation, training and integration. Leader budget for this period is 2.6 million euros. Around 68% of money comes from EU and the state, and the rest from communities.
I think it's very important because it's the first time that in the European programs Leader made this bottom-up approach so that we can sit all together in a region and make our own program and then make this program fit in the European networks. So it's coming from the basis. That's very important. I think the most important experience we had is that we should make programs to invest in the capacity of people, in education people, because even in our country where the people normally have a good professional education, we need a lot of work to be done for the social and the participation. atmosphere between the country, the people in the different villages.
The visit to the center of the nature park of the Upper Sur brought some information on a leader program in one nature protected area. The host was Miss Christine Ludgen from the head office. The first initiatives about this park were supported by the European Leader 1 program in 1991. The park was officially established in 1999. It has a surface of around 163 square kilometers in 6 municipalities with 5,000 inhabitants. 50% of the surface is covered by forests and 42% is used for agriculture. The aims of the nature park of the Upper Sur are: the nature park of the Upper Sur participated in a series of transnational projects with the financial support of the EU fund FEDER. The restored woolen mill becomes the nature park center. Its management is situated here, as well as woolen mill living museum, interactive exhibition, shop with regional products, exhibitions and workshops. Meat products from the region are available in the regional shop Boutique Vumsei, which is also visited by participants. SWG Group also paid a visit to the leader office in Eschdorf. The building was bought by the municipality and transformed into the service center of the rural area in 1996, just for starting period of Leader Plus. The leader management is seated here. One of the Leader 2 projects supported the establishing of the rural library in this office, which is not only for this municipality but for the entire area as well. Visit to the Ministry of Agriculture, Viticulture and Rural Development of Luxembourg was organized. The host, Mrs. Françoise Bonnet, has explained its role and activities. The main leader actors and the main documents related to leader and LAGs were presented too. More than 50% of the total population of Luxembourg live in rural areas. The total population is 483,000 inhabitants, and all municipalities are eligible for leader. The Axis 3, rural development with improvement of the quality of life in rural areas and diversification of the rural economy, is the most important axis, as we have decided in Luxembourg that all leader projects should try to fulfill objectives of the Axis 3.
In terms of statistics, if you see the number of LAGs, we have got a number of projects since the beginning of implementation of LEADER. I think I can say that LEADER has had a great success in Luxembourg. There were a lot of innovative projects that could be implemented, and there were a lot of people, persons, actors in rural areas who could benefit from this program. I think here in Luxembourg we have a particular context that we are a small country, so it's perhaps easier for a ministry to be very present also in the rural areas. So we tried at the beginning of the new leader period to have meetings with the leader managers to prepare everything. Then we went to the rural areas, to the different regions, to present the new program to the rural actors, to the partners of the LAGs. And so I think it's very easy with this direct contact to implement LEADER and to try that the people in rural areas get informed about everything.
And finally, the group is in Germany again. Mr. Franz Josef Strauss from Department for European Structural Policy for Rural Areas was a host to SWG delegates in the ministry. He talked about LEADER implementation in Rhineland-Pfalz through development program Agriculture, Environment, Rural Development, PAUL, the payment agency and the managing authority of the Rural Regional Fund. Approximately 3/4 of the total area, with a half of the total population, are considered as rural areas. Over 85% of municipalities have less than 2,000 inhabitants, about 50% less than 5,000 inhabitants. Rhineland-Pfalz is a land of contrast with unique cultural landscape and quality products: wine, vegetables, tobacco. Population declines, especially in rural areas. The proportion of over 60 people may double till 2050. The number of people of working age could fall by 1/3. That's why the objectives of the official policy are: the sustainable development of rural areas requires area-based local development strategies. The European Structural Funds programs are available for growth and employment in the foreground. PAUL will help to develop innovative approaches and pilot projects for rural development. A LEADER approach will be used in the development of PAUL. A desired number of medium-sized local action groups is 10. EAFRD resources are at least 1 million euros per LAG for the financial period 2007-2013. EU co-financing rate is up to 55% of public expenditure.
With local groups, we build local groups, and with the bottom-up approach, really with the negotiation with the people. Not by administration with the people, we build the groups. That's very simple. The principal result is the new ideas of the leader groups, and the second is the regions work together. Also, if gives administration branches, they don't respect these branches. They do it together all over the national branches or the administration branches. That is the main result, to work together of the people. First thing, the local groups must have freedom to do things that in normal programs are not supported. Because if it's only measures supported in normal groups, it's not necessary to build a group. Second thing, the groups must have the freedom to think about new ideas, new things, and to work together without the pressure you have to do it in 2 months or 3 months. That is the only thing. You have to recreate the real idea. In the past, also the rural population work together, and that you need also for leader. In my opinion, it's a simple thing to do.
SWG Group visited LAG UNESCO Heritage Upper Middle Rhine Valley in Oberwasel. Mr. Thomas Zelmer, consultant of this LAG, talked about leader in this area. The Upper Middle Rhine Valley is part of 2 federal states and 6 districts. It is a narrow valley with steep slopes. There are cultural landscapes with many nature reserves and national parks. It was a transit area for many centuries. The positive aspects of this are mobility and historic sites, and the negative are noise and separating infrastructure. The river also separates the region into 2 parts with no bridge but 6 ferries. The area suffers from land abandonment, so vine growing is decreasing and bushes are invading the land. There is a lack of free construction area. The federal state of Rhineland-Palatinate promoted the development of rural areas through the Leader Plus program. The surface of the Leader area is 390 square kilometers with 48,000 inhabitants. Each of 7 promoted regions had EU money and its disposal around 300,000 euros per year during 5 years. The LAG Mittelrhein is supported by all interested citizens and has around 30 members. It has a president, the mayor of the municipality of St. Goar Oberwasel, as well as a managing director. Its decision-making board has 16 local actors from associations, politics, as well as from business and social initiatives. The task of the LAG is the pre-selection of projects by a working group. Until now, there have been around 100 project ideas with 43 implemented projects. The overall budget was about 6 million euros, 1.6 million as leader support, 1.6 million from state budget, 3.2 million as own contribution. The project beneficiaries were mostly municipalities and some non-profit organizations, associations or foundations. The LAG does not have its own budget except from the management. The members of the Special Association UNESCO World Heritage are federal state, Rhineland-Palatinate and communities of the region. Its head is a district president. The association has its own budget provided by the federal state. Under Leader 2007-2013, this LAG gets about 1.1 million euros from EU funds. The projects are open for private persons.
This is a very effective regional action group. There are 16 persons with a vote and further 15 or 20 persons who can help us, who can help the 16 persons with a vote. And they find their decision mostly in consensus, so there are no conflicts. All the projects that will be supported have great help of the local action group. Success of projects is defined by the creation of jobs, and there are some projects that really created permanent jobs, especially one, the marathon. This is now a small enterprise which organizes every year a marathon, which is already well known and famous in Germany. And this is a quite good example for the regional development, how we can gain great effects with small money. This is once supported, and now it goes by itself. It's now a job who is permanent.
The study tour ended with a visit to GTZ headquarters in Eschborn, Germany. GTZ is a long-term partner involved, among others, particularly in projects in agriculture and rural sector in Southeast European countries. In the field of the regional rural development, GTZ and InWEnt bundle their activities in Southeast Europe. SWG delegates were welcomed by Mr. Albert Engel, Head of Division, Agriculture, Fisheries and Food, and Mr. Armin Klockner from the same division, offered the lecture GTZ, Partner for the Future Worldwide. A GTZ is an international cooperation enterprise for sustainable development with worldwide operation which support the German government. GTZ promotes complex reforms and change processes in developing countries and countries in transition. Its objective is to improve people's living conditions on sustainable basis. The German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, is GTZ major client. The company also operates on behalf of other German ministries, governments of other countries and international clients. The GTZ presentation was completed with presentation of GTZ activities in the Southeast European region. GTZ, together with InWEnt, has been providing so far the largest financial and technical support to SWG. Their contribution was crucial for establishment of regional network for supporting its rural development.
InWEnt conducts a program which is called EU Integration Southeastern Europe on behalf of the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, and one component which is very big is the integration of rural economic areas in Southeastern Europe, and the objective of this is to strengthen the administrative and management capacities for regional and rural development in the Southeastern European regions, also on the national but also on the local level. And InWEnt does this via an approach of an integrated regional and rural development and conducting capacity building activities in this topic, always in compliance with EU legislation and policies, which are very important, of course, in the process in Southeastern Europe of EU approximation and integration, although the status is different, of course, in some countries. And to come back to the local action groups, in regional rural development, there are two issues very important. One is the shaping of the institutional framework, but the other one is, of course, that if we're talking about rural development, the initiative has to come from the local level. Endogenous potentials have to be mobilized. And actually, in the Common Agricultural Policy of the EU, this idea of mobilizing endogenous potentials is mainstreamed via the LEADER program, which is actually implemented by local action groups, which are conducting projects on the local level.
The mission of Standing Working Group was successfully completed after a week of intensive learning about support structures and local development initiatives on the EU and country levels of Belgium, Luxembourg and Germany.
The study tour was very beneficial for me at this point that gives me a wider view of different examples and practices in countries as Luxembourg, Belgium and Germany.
These study tours gives us very important duties to have established not only LACs, but to have established the regulation how the LACs will function in the future.
Most interested for me was to see how local action groups in those countries prepared their projects and how to implement it.
We could organize our local on local level and develop a local action group for future IPART funds.
Regarding the LACs, I think we are very far to compare with country which we visited.
And after this trip, I can say that it will be pretty hard task for us in Bosnia-Herzegovina to establish and work on this issue.
So it will be really a challenge to try to transfer this knowledge and experience get during the study trip in our countries.
So it is good to know that in advance that ahead of us is a very big and difficult job.
Actually, for me as a Secretary General of the Standing Working Group, it was very important that the European Commission, especially DG Agri, had a chance to meet all the group, actually to see the reality as such. SWG is a reality, and also was a very important strongly expressed political support which was given for the group and for the ministries which are actually participating in this initiative.